Hello, everybody. Welcome to CripChat, your weekly podcast for everything disability. Today I have with me Jonathan Shar, Andrew Bretherington, Ibby D, and
Hello.
David Cunningham.
Hello.
How are we today?
Awesome. Oh, we're very
Fantastic.
good, thank you,
What are,
David. And
that's good. That's good. What are we talking about today, Ibby?
today we're gonna be talking about a heavy topic. Just views discussion. This might get a bit sensitive. So we'll be talking about modern slavery when it comes to employment for people with disability. David, sorry about that. Cunningham,
Cunningham?
Yes.
tell us more about this topic.
Well, basically, been
Apparently,
doing some.
apparently today's episode is going to be a three episode,
That's right. Because it's such a big
three
issue.
series episode.
Yeah. Because the issue, I thought we'd kind of cover it across 3 episodes.
Awesome.
Please like and
Which would
share.
Big. Yeah.
And write your
Please like and
comments.
share exactly. Yeah. So this one is called the challenge of modern slavery for people with disabilities.
So, what are your thoughts on that, Cunningham?
Well, basically,
slavery.
well, like
I just can't believe it's still happening today, man.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the thing is, I've got some discussion points we can actually go through, but this one could be good. But actually, the first what I want to ask you guys is what do you think the role of ADEs actually should be as an Australian disability enterprises, which are another word for what they used to call supported employment workshops or shuttle workshops. Because basically, their role is it's kind of a difficult, question to ask. I wanted to ask you guys what you thought about that.
Look, for me personally, I understand, people with disability, they have a right to get into employment, but I find that the government is going around in circles. When you agree with me on that, Andrew?
Yeah, I think what happens with a lot of these ADE enterprises is they advocate more probably for the employer than they do for the person with the disability. And part of the problem is because we don't really have our own kind of union or backing, we're really kind of relying on the ADE to advocate for us. But what normally happens is they're on the side of the business, and when we get assessed by some of these ADEs on our functionality for work, they then assess how much they can pay us. To some employers might go, oh great, look, I've got this worker I can pay less than $10 an hour because of his functional assessment so low by the ADE. Let's get them all in and work our factory line, and then they reap in the profits. So I think the current ADE system needs a bit of an overhaul. I think it's very telling that a lot of the ADEs don't have disabled members running the company or on their boards. So yeah, we definitely need some kind of union movement or involvement or some kind of representation with these ADEs.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, look for
Also,
people with
also
disability. Sorry, go ahead, David.
Also, you said paying them $10 an hour, but doesn't the government also support the actual person that's employing them too?
Well, yes and no.
Financially?
What normally happens is they'll give a financial incentive to the business to hire the disabled worker. So that money then goes to the business rather than the employee. So that's kind of the financial incentive.
So it's a win. It's a win-win for the business.
Exactly. For example, I have an acquired disability. I've got ME, myalgic encephalomyelitis. I was doing a lot of admin work for TAFEs and unis, and I was getting paid around $30-ish an hour.
That's
Went
good.
through the ADEs.
That's all right.
And I got offered the exact same work that I was doing pre-disability for $10 an hour that I was doing $30 an hour.
Oh, wow.
Before.
That's a
Yeah.
big gap. That's a huge gap.
Exactly. And the only thing that
Yeah.
had changed is, like, obviously I was disabled, so I needed more rest and maybe a bit more access stuff, which you would think the money from the government would go to the business to support, to get that stuff in place for me to work. But no, they use that to get cheap labor. So
That's awful. That is awful. I find the process as well is a bit daunting. You go in there, you have an assessment. You go into those employment service providers. They barely find you any work, and then they tell you, okay, rightio, come back in 2 weeks' time. And
Yeah.
it's just a cycle. It's a continuous cycle.
well, I'm glad
And
you
like
mentioned
said,
that.
Andrew.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go. Yep.
No, go for it, Andrew. I'll just say I agree with you. It's
No. I was going to say, those employment agencies also get a commission for the government for each job role they put you in, or
there
they
you
can
go.
choose to park you in the system and say that they're continuing to find you work and earn money that way by parking you. So my experience is I would come in to the DES provider completely fatigued, like passing out on front of their desk, and then they said, "Look, I can't pick you up to work. You're too fatigued. I'm not going to offer any jobs for you." But they're still earning money from the government, even though I had found jobs to apply for, and the business had said, "Yep, cool, just get the DES person to sign off on it, and we'll give you a part-time job." And I called the manager, and he's like, "No, I haven't heard anything from these guys in 6 months." So they either park you and earn money that way, or you find the job yourself, and then they claim the money from you finding the job yourself. They don't actually do any of the work.
Exactly. Spot on. We're just the money makers, man.
That's not good.
It's not good at all.
That's what I've realized. If I was trying to look for work, they just they couldn't find nothing. I was still waiting. They're earning their money, but I'm not.
Exactly, man.
It's a bit like
There's a
India.
huge gap in the system.
Everyone's earning money off of us except us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Jonathan, what's your thoughts on that point, John?
I think John's muted.
Jonathan?
No,
Can we hear
we'll come back to Jonathan. Yeah, look, for me, honestly, the system itself needs to change. It needs to change quick. People with disability out there working in factories earning like $2 an hour, it's just not right. And plus,
Yeah,
the
it
cost of
isn't.
living's going up.
Sometimes less than $2 now. There's many
Yeah,
years
exactly. Yeah, and also that's been there since 1986 as well. So they've been paying $2 an hour or under at times since back then, and it hasn't changed properly, really.
See, people with disability have been left behind.
Quality.
The problem is
sometimes you got to think about it.
Oh, sorry. I didn't want to cut you off.
They sort of sometimes use the 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 actual explanation, like the excuse that if they give you more, then your pension will be cut off,
Yeah,
and they
exactly.
don't want to disturb your
Um,
pension.
so guys, I mean, looking at an actual like minimum wage, then do you think that that's something we should be, or we all should be actually pushing for, and to make sure we actually can actually be entitled to that? Because I think it's a rather pressing point, especially when it comes to, you know, us being seen, all of us being seen as equal within such, you know, enterprises. I mean, I think that they should be giving us a decent, adequate, you know, wage for a decent day's work. I
Especially
mean,
now
that's
that the value of money has gone up since 1986. It's gone up very significantly. I
yeah,
mean, $2 back in the 80s was okay, but we're living, in the 2000s. The value of money has gone up significantly,
Well, the
and
problem
yeah.
is, oh,
if you're
sorry.
gonna pay these people disability low money, they won't be able to survive.
Mm, mm. And the problem is like, why are disabled people viewed as it's okay they earn less than an able-bodied person for the same hours of work, even though we probably have
Yeah,
higher. When you think about it, we're working harder than the
my,
able-bodied.
my, mind you, I think I realize people with disability do a better job than a person with disability
Mm.
because they put more effort into it.
And the problem
They tend
is
to be more productive. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
with the SWS. So how they assess you is they'll assess you working over 3 days. And let's say first day they assess you at 100%, you'll get the exact same wage as an able-bodied person. But then, or we'll take my disability for example. Like first day I could probably do 100%, but then I've got the post-exertional malaise. So next day I might only be able to do 20% of that capacity. And then on day 3 I'll be bedbound and won't be able to work at all. So they put a 0 for that. So then they calculate that up together, and of those 3 days, they might go, okay, well, Andrew's got 10 or 5% capacity, which means I would earn 10% of what an able-bodied person would in the exact same role. Now, another loophole these employers use is the minimum that you can be paid on this through this scheme is $95 a week, which I think over 35 hours a week of 5 days, I think that works out to $2.70 an hour or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, wow.
And this
Yeah.
is all set up by Fair Work, so it's all perfectly legal. But it's been a bit,
This is a cup of coffee an hour. I
Less than a cup of
we
coffee an hour.
live in a nation built on the notion of the freedom was that bloody on
What the language?
outrageous.
Yeah, I know it is outrageous. One the language, but you said a cup of coffee? A couple?
less than a cup of
Not
coffee.
even one cup of
Yeah,
coffee.
Less than a
not
cup
even
of
half a coffee,
a
not even a
cup of
fucking
coffee.
latte.
Maybe just the froth at the top.
Maybe,
Baby Chino.
maybe I'll be able to buy a coffee and a muffin the whole day if I can afford
Yeah,
it.
So
but jokes aside, he says it's got to change. It's got to change.
So I'm glad you
yeah, it
brought
has
that
to.
up because this is an area I've been working in, this modern slavery kind of area. I run a Facebook page called 88 Days and Counting. We mostly advocate for migrant workers on the working holiday visa, but they were experiencing similar forms of exploitation through the visa scheme. So they were getting paid $4 an hour in some cases to pick strawberries or tomatoes and that kind of thing. So since about 2015, myself and a few other advocates pushed for the introduction of a Modern Slavery Act in Australia, which I gave evidence at in Mildura in, I think, 2017 or something. And quite noticeably, we had lots of different migrant groups, refugee groups, and other uh, uh, cultures, communities, sorry, that experienced modern slavery. But we didn't have one disability liaison or anyone representing disability speaking at the modern slavery, the inquiry to establish the Modern Slavery Act.
What the fuck?
So that was very concerning for me. Also, with the agricultural work that I do, a lot of these kind of awards where it's based on this very capitalistic notion of performance of, well, how much can you pick or how much can you perform, and that's what we're going to pay you, which is what the old piece rate system was under, usually leads to these high forms of exploitation. And this is exactly what's happening with the ADEs and this SWS system, is it's all based on how much performance.
Hey, Andrew, it could be useful. It could be useful. Sorry for that, but it could be useful to explain what SWS means.
Oh, sorry, supported wage
Just for
scheme.
yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. So this supported wage scheme is based on performance rather than an hourly rate. So if you don't perform enough, being the person, which is ridiculous to a person with disability, because you're asking them to perform at a rate comparable to able-bodied people, and then you're saying, oh, well, because he's not meeting the able-bodied person's rate, we're going to underpay him because that's what our society deems is worthy, which is complete BS. But then that's why you get all these factories that set up that underpay workers, because they're like, well, I'm not going to employ able-bodied workers to do this job when I can get disabled workers to do it for $4 an hour. So
yeah, or less, and also just like a bit on point, but there's like stuff like like is that I mean it's only a very job that I mean it's not all of us actually wish to actually do this like a role, and some of us actually like put in there because there's no other option like for us from our support coordinators or other people who look after our needs, and they basically say, well, you want something to do here, go and do this. When it should be about exploring what we're actually wanting to do with our careers and our work lives as well. I mean, it's not always an option for everyone.
Well, yeah, it's viewed as, oh, well, we'll give them something to do. Doing the work is giving them something to do, and that enriches their lives because they got something to do. But it's modern slavery, because we should still be able to work and earn the same amount as an able-bodied person, and then use that money to either get off the DSP or get off benefits or start a family or buy the things that we need to buy, you know. So it's not actually helping anyone except the businesses and the government that earn money off us.
Yep, yeah, exactly. We have the right to live a normal life. I mean,
It actually takes away. What you could say it takes away from the sending to work to overseas. Why send to overseas when you can get the cheap rates here?
Yeah, exactly. Like so, guys, when it comes to consultation and representation and like unions and for the Modern Slavery Act and also for being part of the supported wage system, then I mean, what are our thoughts on that? Because I think it's important we do get representation in this area as well, and that we do actually be consulted. Because
yeah,
consultation
of course.
for this
We
happening.
need,
So
we
yeah,
need.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
No, I'm just saying, before you talk, Andrew, we do
yeah.
need representation. You know, we do need people to represent. You know, people with disability in our society. Um, yeah, because this has gone way overboard since what you said, like you mentioned, Cunningham, since the 1980s.
Yeah,
And yeah, look, like I mentioned before, things have got to change. They have to change. Sorry, yeah, I'm rambling.
yeah,
Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, I was going to say, ironically, we do have a disability union, or they claim to be a disability union. They're called the Australian Services Union, and you go onto their page and we go, "We're the disability union," but it's only for disability workers or support workers or support coordinators, those kind of people, not actual disabled workers, which I thought was a bit hilarious. And I just did a tour of Trades Hall here in Melbourne recently, and they have a list of all the important movements in Australia up in their new museum. One of which was they had the feminist movement, gay rights movement, uh, different workers movement, but no disability movement in there. Even though disability movement is important for the workers movement, because I like to say we're all just temporarily able. We don't know what's going to happen in our lives where we could end up getting a disability either through work or through other means. There was
yeah.
one girl, the working holiday visa, she lost both her hands in a meat factory and couldn't play the violin anymore, found herself being disabled through the working holiday visa scheme. But because she had a disability, you can't then continue the working holiday visa scheme because they don't allow for disability. And then also, you're then having to deal with disability employment services and all of this kind of stuff. So it's a really important workers' rights area. And you have this system in Australia where there's a two-class system. You have the able-bodied people that earn a living wage and all the entitlements that come with it, and then disabled people who are being treated as second-class citizens in modern slavery-like conditions, where they're getting paid so low and so little, and they also end up dying in some of these kind of. In fact, I think there was one in South Australia or someone that died doing one of these factory work kind of jobs or something, And then,
Wow.
it's too low to even earn super on, so you're not going to get any
Shame.
super.
And
So,
it is shame, actually. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, something definitely needs to be done. And I think some of the solutions would be to expand the Modern Slavery Act to include disabled enterprises and disabled people facing modern slavery.
Mm.
And strengthening it so that Australian disability enterprises have to report to the Modern Slavery Act as well. But currently,
I've got a question. I've got a question. If we do that,
hmm,
would that get less people that are disabled, have disability being hired?
I don't think so. I think that's what they were threatening. This is
It's
what
like,
happened.
for example, I'll be saying, oh, why would I want to hire someone that's got a disability and pay him as much as someone that has is plainly got all senses.
Hmm.
Mm. I think
Um,
we need to advocate. We need
yeah,
more advocates out there. We need people with disability to advocate, for workers' rights, pretty much. Unions should be uh, consist of people with disability. More people with disability should be out there, representing those
Yeah.
that do have a disability.
hmm. I just wanted to respond to what David D said, because I often heard this kind of excuse with farmers, which was like, well, if we start paying all the migrant workers the same as Australians, then you know the migrant workers aren't going to have jobs, or we're going to be forced to automate or whatever. And then my counter to that was, well, are you saying your industry is held off on automation because labor has been so cheap that you're automating? And I also said, the fact is, the supported work system can be set up in a way that supports people with disabilities. It's meant to pay half of the person's disability wage to the employer in the first 1 or 2 years. So there's already an incentive for employers to hire disabled people properly.
Yep.
Where it gets messy is where they do this assessment system where they deem, oh, well, you only have to pay half of $10 because we've deemed his functionality at, 10% or whatever.
Yeah.
All they need to do is lift it to a living wage, keep the supported work system in place, and employers will still hire disabled people because they still get that incentive from the government to help modernise their workforce. But also, if you look at modernising workforces where we have to say each workforce has to accommodate for disabled workers or disabled people, and you need to get your building and business practices up to accessible standards, similar to like what we're asking for the housing industry to build accessible homes. We need to be doing the same thing for the workforce. And then there's no difference between, oh, well, I'm not going to hire this disabled person to this able-bodied person because you don't have the barriers there. But also, if we strengthen things like the Disability Discrimination Act, when employers do that, they can get sued and fined for not being compliant. So, yeah, I just thought I'd address that.
So yeah, so guys, then I mean, do we all think we could actually cope with the situation ourselves if it was affected to us? I mean, because I mean, I know I couldn't actually stand to be in such a
No. The simple answer to that, no. We won't be able to, I think, survive. Sorry, David. Could we all cope with having to deal with this type of workplace situation ourselves? Yeah, the way forward, the possible solutions. What are your thoughts, David?
Yeah, well, see, basically,
I've been through it before.
Do you want to share your experience, David?
And I've worked for. Oh mate, it's slave labor.
Yeah.
You just work and do the same thing over and over again like you're a machine.
Yeah.
And
you see, when I got into the system, when I joined the employment service provider, the one job I avoided was the factory work. I went to university and I studied and I got degree after degree. And I didn't go to study just so I can work for 16 hours in a factory and get paid $2 an hour. That's not right.
Yeah, exactly.
I would like to utilize my skills, my knowledge, in the workplace, just like everybody else.
I only start to work like that because to occupy time until I got myself and got my feet on the ground properly. Because I'll just come out of just become blind from a car accident, and now I'm getting back on my feet and to occupy my time. But then later on, well, I haven't got a job now, but I've got NGIS and they help me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and we like to utilize it somehow.
So, guys, some final thoughts, if we'd like to.
Andrew, any final thoughts?
Oh, okay. I think we shouldn't have to experience facing these types of workplace expectations and I know for me, I'm autistic as well. It makes it a bit hard to self-advocate when you're put in those sort of situations,
Yeah.
and especially when the ADE isn't advocating for you or is on your side. So I I honestly think the solutions are going to be political. Um, I helped change the Horticultural Award 2020 just this year, which got rid of some of these slave rates, which was the piece rate, um, and introduced a minimum wage on the floor for the piece rate. Now, we were able to do that because Fair Work Australia modernises the award every 4 years, and then supply and give evidence and count and uh, cross-examine people that were for the modern slavery. Also, I think setting up a gangmasters similar to what the UK has done, where you can report instances of modern slavery. I think disabled people need a similar line where they can report that and say, hey, I'm working 10, 12-hour days. I'm only earning $4 an hour, and I'm getting seriously sick and injured from this. And expanding things like the wage theft laws that Victoria now have and Queensland now have, make that national, mandatory manslaughter laws, and also mandatory maiming laws. So when people do become further disabled or disabled through their workplace, employers are held liable criminally and financially. But yeah, I think a lot of it's got to come through more disabled people speaking out, saying, hey, this is a problem. We are in slave-like conditions. The Modern Slavery Act needs to cover us. And yeah, just go from there.
No, that's also some very good points, Andrew. You know, look, if you can't self-advocate, then yeah, look, join a community. You know, join a community of people who are willing to advocate for this. Build that movement. You know, start the ball rolling. We
I think
need
even if we
this
could
needs
start
to
our
be
own
changed.
disability union where actual disabled work, similar to the unemployed
I
Australian
reckon
work.
we should start up a disability union, AD union.
Yeah, more representation for people with disability. You know, people need to get out there. You know,
Yeah, Sally
voice their
McManus,
concern.
come on. You've got the funding at the ATCU. Represent us
Oh, we
disabled
should
people.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, fund the
AD
Australian
union,
disability.
and it'll
Very
be Australian Disability Union,
Mm.
and that would be accessible through the internet. That way, because some people can't get there to be represented, and also we should talk about minimum wage and how much is it going to affect people with disabilities pensions.
Well, Bob
Yeah.
Hawke started the DSP originally with 30 hours a week because he said your disability doesn't disappear just because you got a job. But successive Labor and Liberal governments introduced more restrictive, stupid rules for the DSP that have completely effed up the whole working on the DSP thing.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
They need to fix
it's
that.
corrupted the system.
But maybe we can talk about that episode 2 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we can
we
talk
couldn't a
more
second
about
part.
that next week. Actually,
Yeah.
Won't do that. You're right.
for
It'd be
next
good.
week.
Yeah.
No, good. But for now, you'll be watching CripChat, your weekly podcast on everything disability. Join us next week as we, I guess, dig into this topic, talk more about it. But for now, goodbye.
Thanks, guys.